Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Item B is the verification of public notice and the approval of the agenda.
So move approve if there are no adjustments.
Second.
Motion by Barry, second by Adam. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item C, a moment of silence to reflect on the business at hand. Item D, the Watoma Area School District Strategic Plan.
Mission statement, create housing foundation for the success of our children.
Business and community involvement through internship, job shadowing, and mentorship.
Develop marketing of the district and community through branding.
Improve work and people skills.
Develop parental contacts promoting school involvement.
Build productive relationships with the medical field to increase the support and open lines of communication to support students with mental health issues.
Item E, recognition of persons wishing to address the board. We have none. Item F, staff/student presentations. We have the EL program presentation. Sierra?
That is me. Okay, I'm going to stand because that here, so I don't know if it's convenient for you to turn a little bit. Just temporarily, maybe that table there. It's up to you. Alright, so I will try not to be too long, but this was actually one of the few state tests that we were able to administer last year, prior to what we know as COVID. So I'm going to just kind of give you some updates about our EL program. Belinda Peterman and Beth Lindemeyer and Jennifer Erickson are all part of that, and so they're here tonight to help answer questions if you were to have anyone were to have questions. So just a reminder, I think when we talk about the ACT, we all have our own context of that. We've all probably taken it at some point. When we talk about something like the access test and the EL program, that's something that most of us don't have personal experience with. So access test tests students who have a home language or speak a different language other than English more than half of the time at home. And what we do is we test them annually based on federal and state law to measure their English proficiency. And so here we talk about exit programs, so students are exiting the EL program when we've determined that they're English proficient. Again, they take it mid-year, so this test is December to January, so this data that I'm going to show you is from last school year, around the winter months. When we get results, students get a score of anything from a 1 to a 6. A 6 is what we call a former EL, meaning that they were once an English learner and they're now English proficient. What our team is looking for is scores of really anything of a 5 or 6. We also have the ability with our discretion to exit students who score a 4.5 or higher using multiple different indicators. So we're just going to kind of show you some data of last year and kind of talk through some highlights. This is the number, and I didn't update this yet today because I was waiting for some information from Riverview. But this kind of shows you the number of EL students that we have in the district currently. We have had a couple new families come in, so they're not necessarily newcomers to the country, but newcomers to our district. But we also usually exit some students each year that obviously bring up some new kindergartners. So fairly steady. So when the students take the test, we test the English language in 4 different domains. So we have listening, reading, speaking, and writing. And you'll notice that the perceptive languages like listening and reading are often what's picked up first when they're learning the new language. Whereas productive writing, such as speaking and writing, is harder to develop, and you'll see where we score lower. When you're looking at this data, you're going to want to what we want to see is that purple, blue, and green to be high, right? Because those are students who are becoming English proficient. So you can notice that speaking, for example, has no purple, a little bit of blue, a little bit of green. That's obviously the area where our students struggle the most. And so one of our goals is to get our students speaking as much as we can in the classroom. Listening is obviously where they're performing the best. That's the first of the pieces of language that they usually develop. So that's helpful. That's our scores from last year. So it kind of shows you the proportion of each category. And then I know we the board especially likes to see trends over time and kind of how our program is developing. And so I have 4-year trends for each of these domains. So this is the overall score. So what Access does is it takes the listening, reading, speaking, and writing, and it puts it into what's called a composite score. And so again, we're looking for this, when I look at this data, I'm looking for the split between green and yellow as kind of my parameter. And what you'll notice here is the number of students that are hitting at least a 4 has increased in our district over the last 4 years. So when I look at that, I'm seeing good data in the fact that the number of students becoming English proficient is increasing over time. And again, that population of students isn't consistent because some graduate, some exit. So it is kind of hard data to look at trends with, but overall we can see those trends. This is our listening data over the last 4 years. So again, I'm looking for that green. Okay, so I kind of want you to look for that green to yellow split. And you'll notice that our students who are proficient in listening has increased. We really had very few students that kind of weren't hitting that proficiency level on the English portion, or the listening portion, sorry. The next one is reading. This is, again, one that we continue to work on. Students at the elementary level especially, as well as some students that are still showing middle and high, are often going to score in that 1 and 2. So that's our reading data over time. We saw a little bit of an increase last year. It went down a little bit this past year. 2 years ago we saw an increase in that. This is something I was proud of when I looked at it. I know our green hasn't jumped a lot, but if you look at how many students we have in that brown and orange category, we've really been able to decrease the students who are scoring significantly low. And then our writing scores. Kind of gives you a trend on how we're doing in each of those domains over the past 4 years. This is the average score. So the students are all scored similarly. So this is students kind of where they're scoring at first grade. So what we would want to see here is a linear pattern where our students are continually going up. And one thing I noticed when I was looking at this data was that in our middle levels, we see kind of a decrease and a little bit of a stagnancy there. And so one thing that we need to do is kind of be more intentional with the students who are still in the middle school program. Students should, based on what DPI has as a standard, should really exit the EL program probably within a 5-year period. So most of our students who are kind of on track for exiting should leave the program by 5th grade. And so what we see when we have students in middle school, those are students who really haven't made the progress they need. And we really need to be intentional with those students. Unfortunately, in our district, we do have some students that we sometimes call lifelong ELs that just struggle to exit and maybe are in the whole program, EL program, their entire educational career. And that's where we've increased some supports at our high school level this year. This is exciting data. So when we talk about, that was kind of comparison to ourselves over time. This is our data against the rest of the state. And I know that that's something that the board usually is interested to see. So our 3 school districts, so this, it looks like one solid graph, but what this actually is it's a line for every school district in the state. Our lines are the 3 blue lines that are here. Okay, so Parkside is this first line. Parkside is scoring right on average. Their SGP was a 50 as a school. So if we lined up all the school districts in the state, Parkside's at a 50. Riverview, or high school, is at a 60, and then Riverview Elementary is at a 61. So what we can take away from this piece of information is that our growth in our EL learners is state average or above in all of our schools when compared to students' SGPs at other buildings or at other schools in the state. It's kind of a nice comparative piece. This is our growth. So another piece of data that they give us is how the students do against themselves. Okay, so kind of how is that student growing? And we get the data split into 3 categories. Students are experiencing low growth, students are experiencing typical growth, and students who are experiencing high growth. And what we're able to do is look at that data on a per student basis to be able to see if each student has medium, low, or high growth. But if you notice again here, our number of students who had high growth in 18-19 was 27. Now last year we had 45% that had high growth. Again, kind of looking at that. So we still had a high number in the low, or constant in the low, but our number who had high growth increased and our typical decreased. So I'm going to kind of just show you talk about each school and how they're served, and then if you have questions, you can ask. At Riverview, Jennifer Erickson is a full-time teacher at Riverview, and she also has a full-time bilingual paraprofessional. So they have 2 full-time staff there. They're offering pull-out and push-in instruction with students there. They had one student who actually was able to exit prior to leaving Riverview last year. And this year they have 22 active students that they serve. That bar on the side, that green, yellow, and red, is Riverview only growth last year. So 58% of their students had high growth and so forth. This is a graph that the state puts out telling us if students are on track to exit the program in DPI's time frame. This is the percent on track that we have here. The yellow is the percent on track at the state level. And so you can see that Riverview last year we had 62.5% of our students on track to exit on time. The state had 31.5% on track. So we did quite a bit, we're quite a bit higher than the state in terms of students on track to exit. Parkside School has Julie Kettlewell full-time. She wasn't able to join us in person tonight. Not sure if she's watching. Her program looks a little bit different at the 4th and 5th grade level than it does at the 6th through 8th grade level. Her and I met today to talk about the 6th through 8th grade level and how we can be a little bit more intentional with those students. But she's offering pull-out primarily, but also some push-in for some of our students. She has 36 students that she serves. She has 21 additional students that have already exited that she continues to monitor. And then she had 6 students exit last year. You can see here our percent on track is right about the state average at Parkside. And again, that's decreased for Riverview because we're holding on to some of those middle school kids that we would have liked to see exit earlier. The high school, we made some changes this year. We have both Belinda and Beth working with students. So we brought Beth on board. Beth is actually going through the CISA 6 grant program to get her ESL license. So she will be a licensed EL teacher at the high school, and she's doing that for about half of her teaching schedule. And then Belinda Peterman has an hour of her day where she really helps communicate with the families. Belinda has very strong ties with the families in that community and has been very helpful with keeping us as connected as we can be. Beth is able to push into the ELA classes, which has been nice. It's new this year. And then she also teaches an EL resource class during the day. We've really been able to add additional support at high school. High school currently has 17 EL students, 6 that are monitored, and then I included the number who graduated last year. Some things that we're trying to grow this year, and like I said, we've increased the staffing at the high school. We're starting to push in the courses at the high school. We had overall above state average in growth, and we're trying to constantly are increasing our network opportunities and our support system, primarily through CISA 6. We recognize we do have some areas of growth. There's always room to improve. Looking at collecting periodic writing samples from students, as well as encouraging increased speaking in the classroom. And then looking at parent engagement, obviously last year that was difficult. Some of our events that we normally had or had planned had to be canceled. And then looking at our intentionality of how we support students in their assigned intervention time. So, I didn't do much for pausing there, kind of just plowed through. But if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer questions, and then we do have some of our staff here if you have questions for them as well.
Sierra, do you want to talk a little bit about some of the challenges?
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mention that. Tom and I were talking earlier, one of the really difficult challenges that we're going to have this year is the sheer number of our EL population that elected to go virtual. So we know that virtual instruction is a challenge regardless, but then when you add that language barrier, especially with the parents and even for the students on top of that, it's created a really difficult opportunity for us to serve those students well. This year, we're definitely making effort. I know the EL team, takes a lot of that burden on their shoulders. They're calling, they're trying to do Google Meets, and with some limited success, if we're honest about how that's going. I met with Beth Lemmer last week, and for example, she has 24 students that she's looking to connect with. Only 3 of those kids were here in person last week. So 3 out of 24 makes it really difficult to serve that population. So we're doing what we can. We're adding increased supports, but the response to that is difficult given the situation this school year.
My guess is those graphs, especially the statewide graphs in several of the areas that don't have in-person learning at all, graphs are going to fall significantly. State averages,
Yeah.
exiting the program.
Yeah.
I guess our goal needs to be related to that gap, right? Making sure that, maybe we can increase that gap between the state average and where we are. It's going to be, that's what I was thinking before you mentioned that, is what percentage of these kids have elected to go virtual, and of all the challenges of teaching virtually, this specific topic has to be even more challenging.
It's been really difficult, and they're all not even, they've been, this challenge of this year, on top of everything, it's been definitely steep in trying to support those families. They also, we don't really know what the future of state testing is going to be. I'm being told that it's on, and then the plan is that it's coming. This is the first state test that we encounter. It usually starts in December, so that's only 2 months away. We really have no idea what that will look like yet and how that will operate, if it will operate. We anticipate that being a really big challenge to get test participation and those types of things and valid data. We usually practice this in small group environments at school. We're kind of not sure what that looks like yet. But this will be our first go at state testing, if in fact that happens here in the next few months. So, any other questions or comments? One thing I was just thinking about to add is Belinda is offering a translation and interpretation class this year at the high school. I know you guys approved that last year, but sometimes those things are far back. So she's able to add in actual extension opportunities. So some of the EL students who are in the program are also taking her class and kind of funneling that first language support as they look to help with that translation from English to Spanish. And so we're able to kind of extend the program out with those students as well. Not officially part of the program, but some of our EL students are enrolled in that course. All right. Well, thank you for your time. I know this is probably one of the only ones that will do this year because we don't have a lot of data from last year. But since we had this, I wanted to make sure you were updated on how the progress is going in the program. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Item G, administrative reports. Tom, anything to add?
Yeah, just a couple of things. One, the WIA came out with the winter guidelines end of last week. So Adam, myself, Jennifer, Doug, and Jim Rochelle will be meeting this Thursday to start talking about what are winter sports going to look like. Everything's open. And I guess by that I mean wrestling, basketball is available. Again, there's similar to fall sports. There's going to be some specifications about what they want to see. But it's wide open this time. That will also drive what youth sports looks like in our building. We're going to hold them to the same accountability, which could be challenging. We not allowing parents in the building, we're dropping the kids off and making sure that we have protocols in place for that if we're going to allow youth sports to practice. We won't be holding big tournaments, obviously, within the building at this time. But we'll be having all those discussions on Thursday to get a plan in place. The season is moved back, right, Mr. Vaughn, a little bit into late November, so we have some time to get this in place. But right now, the plan is to move forward, similar to what we did with the fall sports. We'll figure out that in place. I know that I obviously contacted each one of you before we made the decision to move to the hybrid schedule. When we had done our planning in July, we had talked about our commitment to in-person and the balancing the importance of having kids in school for their mental health and well-being as well as academics, and also their health safety, and trying to balance them. As we talked today in our admin meeting, I don't think, as much as we planned well and we planned a lot. We could not have anticipated how the whole quarantine thing would look from our perspective. I guess I could never experienced it before in my lifetime. So as those numbers started to rack up, and sometimes those aren't even from active cases, they're things that happen outside of the school district. There's siblings going home ill, there are people in a household testing, and everybody has to stay home. So it's the gamut. And I know I shared a lot of data with you on a weekly basis. And there's one piece of data today that I thought was the strongest piece of data that I've seen, and I don't know if you've noticed it. But right now, the last 2 weeks, there's a 32% positivity rate in Washington County. That means 1 out of 3 tests is positive. All right, I've never seen a positivity rate that high yet in anything that I've seen. Maybe early in this, when we started all this, that could have actually been that way. But when you're cycling through every person who's tested, and 1 out of 3 is going to be positive in this area, it's going to have a dramatic impact into the school system. What happens out there bleeds into the school system. And so one way to, and I know there's, all kinds of things being said out there about, they should have went virtual, why didn't we just go straight to virtual? A couple of beliefs on that. Again, one is I talked to the health department, I want to make sure I have their support, and I do, that we still feel the importance of keeping kids in school. Even if it's 2 days a week, just having that contact with our students is crucial, we believe, to having that, sticking with that. I also believe that once you go virtual, it's really hard to get back from virtual, because you've made that, parents have now made that commitment to stop whatever they're doing to have their kids at home. And so, it's just going that far. One other piece that we have, and I sent this to you a long time ago, but I thought I'd give you another copy. This is sort of the metrics that way back in the day, and by back in the day it was August, but it seems like way back in the day. Patty Wolfile had given this to me. And I never thought in my mind, when I saw this, I'm like, oh, 20 cases a day. That's not even going to, we're not even close to that. I mean, we were averaging like 2-3 cases a day into August. As you saw recently in what I sent you, we're now at 17 cases a day. I will tell you that after this 7-day period coming up to Friday, I guarantee we'll be over 20 cases per day in Washington County. Now we fall right into the metric of hybrid schedule. So Kerry Konczynski called me today and actually commended me for saying, hey, I'm glad you thought ahead of this a little bit, because we are now moving into the world of hybrid, and you guys are there already, a week early. And so the ability to get to that 50 plus a day, I don't even want to say it's not possible, because I never thought we'd get to 20 plus a day. But right now, we're living in the hybrid world within this metric. I'm very comfortable with the decision that we made to do that based on the data that we have. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Jen, anything to add?
No.
Doug?
No.
Adam?
Starting to get the second round of playoff, well, not the second round, but playoffs are starting. So what that looks like will be kind of like Steph Hauser said, an onion. They're not going to do anything for volleyball. We're going to have what's called super regionals. Again, what that looks like right now is still up in the air. Cross country, we also have subsectionals and the sectional finals. So playoffs are starting. Soccer did get the number 2 seed last week, so if we do, they'll be traveling outside a little bit. But just want to let you know that there is a postseason in athletics. It just will not look normal.
Okay, thank you. Jim?
Thanks, Ross. There's so much stuff going through my head right now, I don't know where to begin. It's been challenging but good, and I'll be glad when this Supremo's back.
Okay. Thank you. Caitlin? Nothing to add. Jewel, anything to add? Okay. Sierra?
No.
Cindy, anything to share? Nothing. Did I miss anybody? I got everyone else. Okay, board members. Anything?
I just want to thank you guys again for keeping our kids safe and just trying and just keeping us going, because I've got grandkids in there and they need to go to school, and I just thank everybody for all you guys are doing.
I think from what I've seen, the kids are on board, which is great to see. They've been awesome coming to some of the events at school as far as ball games. I mean, everybody's doing all they can do to take care of the kids and make sure they're being given the opportunity to participate in something like what we do. So, I mean, we're doing everything we can do, the coaches, the staff. I mean, they're doing a great job. So, my hat's off to them, and I'm sure the kids appreciate it.
I mean, I think it's very different. Everybody in the room knows, everybody kind of alluded to it, but the little pieces of normalcy seem even cooler right now, right? When you go to some of these events and it's limited crowds at the football games and the volleyball, et cetera, but I think there's a new level of appreciation from parents and students, right? At least we have this. So as long as we can keep it, I think that's the play. Student Council, we have a new member, the junior representative, starts tonight, Anna Peterson. I know her well. Anna, you want to give us your presentation?
Okay. Our accomplishment this month was homecoming. It will look very different this year. The district celebrated as much as possible with recipes, unique videos created for the sports teams, and a live Google Meet to watch the presentation of court and crowning the king and queen. If COVID restrictions are lifted, we are hoping to offer a second homecoming celebration. Future projects, student council officers. Due to the spring shutdown, our usual voting for officer positions was put on hold. New officer positions will be announced later this month. Community blood drives, the Bloodmobile in the DHC parking lot from 9 a.m. until noon. That will be December 2nd, February 12, 2021. These may be our only unique service projects this year due to COVID restrictions.
Thank you. As per past practice, next month is the big presentation from the student council, and that always falls to the junior rep. So it's typically about an hour, and we look for your strategic directions for the district. So good luck. If you have any questions, talk to Katie. Moving along, consent agenda. We have item 1A, the minutes of the September 14th monthly meeting.
I'll move to approve as written.
Second.
Motion by Adam, second by Brian. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We have staffing, items 2A, 1 and 2, and B1. If there's not the need to take one or more of these out individually, I would entertain a motion to take 2A and B together.
I'll make a motion for staffing 2A, 1, 2, and B1.
Second.
Motion by Nicole and a second by Barry. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 3, policy. 3A, the Macomb Brooks PAC board member.
Yeah, Gary Christensen had made a recommendation for a PAC member, Pam Pierce, I think is how you say the name. I do not know Pam, but Gary highly recommended her for the position. Karen, anything that you know, any more you want to
I've never seen anything about it.
add? Okay.
Okay.
We're going to meeting next month.
Good news.
Need a motion?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'd entertain a motion to entertain Pam Pierce as the new PAC board member.
So
Motion by Adam, second by Karen. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item I, action items. 1, business and finance. 1A, approve the September 2020 treasurer's report.
I make a motion to approve it as printed, treasurer's report.
I'll second it.
Motion by Karen, second by Jeanette. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 1B, approve the vouchers and payroll.
I make a motion to approve the vouchers and payroll as printed.
Second.
Motion by Karen, second by Barry. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item 2, policy. 2A, approve the facial covering requirement per Washera County Department of Health recommendation.
So, things happen so fast, you sort of get caught up in the whirlwind of what's taking place. So we didn't know how long the mask mandate was going to go, and obviously at the last second it got extended. In the same moment, or right before that moment, Patty Wolfow from the county had put out a recommendation or advisement, which you have that document in front of you, it's also in your packet, stating that as long as there's a public health emergency, she highly recommends that all public schools in Washera County continue to require facial coverings in order to keep schools open. As I was looking through our policy, we have a policy 8450, which is attached, control of casual contact communicable diseases, which again talks about sort of making sure to go along with health department advisement when looking at communicable diseases, which COVID is considered a communicable disease. So the reason I'm bringing this to you is even if the mask mandate were to go off in November, my recommendation would be, until the county tells us otherwise, that we continue to move with facial covering requirement under the advisement of Washera County Health Department until further notice. And when she calls that off, she'll be, we'll know. With that being said, so that's what I would like from this, but just so you know what's coming up. Just got end of last week, Neola came out with a PPE policy about giving school districts power to require PPE, which in other words, facial covering. So you're going to also get that policy coming up. So we're going to be well covered in the ability to require facial coverings from this point forward in our lives. So, but I will tell you that whenever we get the green light from whether it's the state health department, the local health department, that they don't need to be mandatory, that they can be based on choice, I would bring that back to you and make that recommendation because that's what they're recommending. As I told you before, Tony Running told me early in the summer, our legal counsel, that anytime your health department gives you a recommendation, you really should follow it. So I took those words when Tony tells me things like that, I listen. So therefore, that's why I'm asking you to approve this advising it in connection with our policy for communicable diseases until further notice. That's my recommendation.
Move to approve.
I'll second it.
Motion by Adam, a second by Jeanette. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Item 2B, approve the 2020-2021 Macomb Area School District Employee Handbook revisions.
We provided you with just the revisions last time for you to review, and then if you had any questions or changes, errors that you saw, then we can get that in on the second consideration. Or actually, I'm sorry, first consideration, we were just handing them last time. Thank you. Only consideration. And this is an annual thing, we go through and try to make sure we have the employee handbook up to date.
You need first consideration.
It's actually just one vote, Barry, I apologize, that was my mistake.
If there are no questions from anyone, I'll move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Barry, second by Adam. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item C, approve the Macomb Area School District Employee Handbook Addendum, response to COVID-19.
So Cindy and I were hoping to avoid to have to do an addendum to the handbook, but then once things sort of broke loose, we really quickly decided that we needed to have an addendum. And thankfully some other school districts have done a lot of work on this. But it's really a lot of the language with the focus on the FFCRA and the emergency paid sick leave act, and also what we discussed regarding hourly employees and how we would cover their benefits if we had to have a shutdown or a furlough. And we also added a telework piece in there regarding the expectations of telework and workspace during telework. So we tried to get everything in there that was related to COVID and employment as an addendum. Again, someday when this isn't necessary anymore, we can remove this off the employee handbook. So looking for approval of the addendum.
I'll make a motion to approve. I'll second it.
Motion by Nicole, second by Karen. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Item D, approve the spring 2020 through October 2021 fundraisers.
So the only fundraisers you're going to see on here are either virtual fundraisers during this year or fundraisers from summer, like July through September of next year, because you approve for October through September in a year. And so with all good intentions in mind that next July through September we're going to be able to have fundraisers, we wanted to put them up for vote now, plus the virtual fundraisers, so that's what you see in front.
So I'd entertain a motion to approve the spring 2020 through October 2021 fundraisers.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Barry, second by Brian. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. Item J, board governance. Discussion only, legislative update.
No, it's going to be old hat, but talked to Roy from Ms. Baldwin's office and also talked to Mr. Tesson himself, and they have absolutely nothing to say. They're not in session. They're not in virtual session. They're not in any session. There's no discussion going on. The only one who's really is our governor, obviously, because he's answering questions on the COVID situation and taking the steps he needs. But other than that, there really is no. And now it's even the national news. Wisconsin's legislature is least active of any in the country. So I gave that one to Jack to do, but I still didn't get anything from him. So I don't know what to tell you. There's nothing to report.
Anybody else?
We just continue to hear that we probably will not act on the second year of the biennium budget, and therefore we should plan on having the money that we have. However, again, that just sort of kind of use word fear, but just potentially dramatic decreases in the next 2-year budget because of the current situation. That's all we're hearing.
Okay. Item 2, discussion only, the WASD State Convention interest.
So the state convention is now officially virtual for January. And so I think what we'll do is Katie and I will make sure to stay on top of that, get you as much information as possible. whether it's, over that 2 to 3 day period, if there's some offerings that you want to watch virtually, we can try to get together to do that if you're not comfortable doing it. You can probably do it from your homes if you wanted to also, but we don't have that information yet on what's going to be offered virtually. But we can definitely do that when we find out.
I think the one coming up on the 13th, is there a cost then when you do it?
Oh, that's the next one.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
sorry.
Yeah.
This one's the state one in January, I
Okay.
apologize. So yeah, this is the one we normally would have went to, had the hotel all set up, and
Yeah.
it's not going to take place this year. So even though it says interesting, when we did this initially, they were still talking about having it, and then also they put the kibosh on it. So more information to come once we have it.
Okay, any comments there? Item 3, discussion only, the WASB online regional meeting that is tomorrow evening.
Yeah. So this snuck up on us, as Katie and I, as Ross said, that's tomorrow night, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it is tomorrow night. So tomorrow night from 6, it's really from 7 to 8, and it's John Ashley addressing our region, and we could get together. I mean, there is no cost. We just have to go on and get on the Zoom meeting at 7 o'clock. So wanted to see if people, and again, I know it's late notice, and I apologize. I don't think there's any professional development content. It's just John's address to us, and they probably recognize the people who've gotten awards. But it's from 7 to 8. We had interested in 6:15 if people wanted to come, and we could get some food from Cristiano's. We could be in the interactive lab and watch the presentation. If, again, I know it's late notice, but if anybody's interested, we'll definitely make that happen. Or if you want to do it from home, you can do it. I can send you the link and you can do it from home. That's more efficient.
I was planning to come, but I'll be in the Coosa.
Would you like us to share the link with you?
Yes.
Okay, right, we'll do that. We'll order Christian else to send it to you. Wolf of Garlic.
Give you my order.
Okay, so you'll send that out.
We'll send it out to the Board of Education email address, so you can all it.
Item K, board suggested future agenda items for the work meeting on Monday, October 26th, and the monthly meeting on Monday, November 9th. Anything to add at this time?
I will not be present for our November 9th meeting. Will be on
Okay. Okay, if there's nothing else to add at this point, if there's anything that you do feel you want added, just advise before those dates. Item L, adjourn to close executive session. To close session under State Statute 19.851C, considering employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility. Need a roll call?
Ross Peterson.
Yes.
Jeanette Holm, yes. Karen Grass.
Yes.
Nicole Wood.
Yes.
Barry Mexico.
Yes.
Adam Henry.
Yes.
Brian.
Yes.